Now, the U.S. is planning to conduct more regular patrols in the South China Sea amid growing tensions with China over its control of the disputed waterway. The Pentagon says it wants to stage the so-called freedom of navigation operations as many as 2 to 3 times a month. U.S. officials have failed to disclose the exact timing or location of the new patrols. Reports say the future patrols may include U.S. military aircraft as well as warships. The South China Sea is the subject of territorial disputes between China, Vietnam, Taiwan, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei. China says the U.S. is meddling in regional disputes and is deliberately escalating the situation in the waters. To discuss that further, we're now joined Mr. Jim W. Dean, who is managing editor at Veterans Today, and he's joining us live now from Atlanta. Mr. Dean, China says the U.S. is escalating the situation, but the U.S. can turn around and say that China is exerting its power in the region as well. Who's right?
Well, they're both right, and they're really both responsible for the escalation. It started with China, who made this really huge, unprecedented claim that the entire South China Sea was theirs. And of course, this did not make their neighbors very happy, all of which would love to have a piece of any, not only the fishing grounds, but potential energy finds that could be found beneath the sea, which could totally help their hard-pressed economies quite a bit. So, that said, China has a huge population. They import huge amounts of energy. So they're thinking that we represent 1 billion people. We should have a bigger piece of the pie. Now, on the other side of that, the U.S. looks at this as a challenge to freedom of navigation to its Navy, and also an opportunity to those countries that are being pushed out of the South China Sea economically to justify that having a big brother from the other hemisphere to help you stand up to China, you wouldn't have really a chance of negotiating anything out of this. And then lastly, China also has some justification for not wanting U.S. military power, particularly with the missiles, the submarines, the aircraft carriers, being able to get close in to be able to launch strikes on China. So they have a very understandable defensive situation. But we all have lived with this freedom of navigation for many, many years now, and China's really tipping the card on it.
All right, Mr. Dean, as always, we appreciate you putting that all into context for us.